I bought my first dirt bike 5 years ago when I was 14. I didn't know anything about riding or the journey I was getting myself into. All I knew was that it was really exciting. Ever since then, every second I've been on a bike has been a second thoroughly enjoyed. Although 5 years isn't really that long, I've learned a few lessons in that time, and I have definitely benefited from them. So why keep the lessons to myself when I could share them with you guys? These bikes are very expensive and very well engineered. With that being said, it was extremely intimidating for me to touch one of these as a kid. Not having the slightest clue as to how these machines work was a very uncomfortable feeling. Because what if I do something wrong? What if I forget something? What if I break something? Or even questions like, what is the right oil to use? Or how do I haul my dirt bike without it falling out? And one of the most concerning thoughts was knowing that these bikes require a lot of maintenance, and I didn't know how to work on them. Luckily, just shortly after getting my first bike, I came across a YouTuber named Cameron Namula. I would watch his videos for hours. Watching him take apart, fix, and then put back together bikes gave me a better understanding as to how these bikes work, and how to work on them, and even all the tips and tricks. Given this new knowledge, it gave me the confidence to finally confront my fear of taking a wrench to a bike. Sure, I stripped out a few bolts here and there, but I soon realized that it's not as scary to work on these bikes as I originally thought. Like my friend Kevin from Dirt Bike and Fab told me, someone else put this bike together, it didn't just magically grow out of the ground. And for some reason when he said that, it clicked in my head that there's no reason I can't learn to work on this bike. There for a while, once I started to learn the basics of riding, I eventually started to get invited on more and more rides with more and more people. Almost always, it was a challenge for me to keep up with these people. Although I would try my absolute best, I just wasn't fast enough. Usually, the harder I tried, the slower I was. This led me onto the realization that if I wanted to get faster, I'm going to have to learn and practice good form. Once I slowed down and began learning and practicing the fundamentals of good form, the speed came soon after. Following up on the previous lesson, once I did get fast, it seemed like all people would talk about is racing. Eventually I had to find out what it was about racing. Coming from some people, it sounded like it was the only point of riding a dirt bike. One winter, there was a 4-part racing series that began at a motocross track about an hour away from where I live. The downside was that there was no public motocross tracks near me. The track that was an hour away from me could only be ridden 4 times a year, and that was when the racing series was there. So, I went down one weekend and signed up. The first day was practice day, and it was the first time I had ridden a motocross track. The track was very different than what I was used to. The next day I raced, and did exceptionally well considering I had never ridden on a track before. I returned for the next round a few weeks later, and did well once more. However, I noticed something that changed in my riding that month. I went from loving and wanting to ride to hating it. I'm in no way saying that motocross tracks and racing is a bad thing. In fact, if you race and enjoy it, that's awesome. It just wasn't for me, and I'd much rather do the riding I do today. I have a lot of other things going on in my life besides just riding dirt bikes, so with that being said, I don't always have a lot of time to ride dirt bikes. But I think I'm going to shift that around because, I don't quite get the same fulfillment and thrill working at a manufacturing company than I do on my dirt bike, so. Probably, yeah, I agree. Should switch the priorities around. One of the things I enjoy most about riding is competing against myself and making progress. In order for me to keep making progress with little time, I had to incorporate strong strategies. Strategy is key to making progress towards your goals. Don't worry, I will soon share some of my favorite techniques in a later video. In the past 5 years of riding, I have had no injuries due to riding. Yes, I should definitely knock on wood because it's likely going to catch up to me. But I blame my low record of crashes and injuries 100% to knowing my skill level and how to safely push it. This is another topic that I will share in a later on video, and it doesn't mean taking your mom's advice and riding careful, whatever that means. It's more or less riding smart, and that is the top 5 lessons I have learned riding. These are not the top 5 lessons in general that can be learned regarding dirt biking, they are just the top lessons that I've learned personally. With that being said, what are the top 5 lessons you've learned so far? Please let us know in the comments.